Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. And today, this is our Tube Talk episode, where we review some of the latest TV show episodes and talk about some upcoming new shows and episodes. And I am here with Mr. Joel Cunningham.
I am here, and I'm here with Mr. Matt Hay.
Indeed. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Matt?
Super awesome-tastic.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes, it's like super and awesome and fantastic.
On a scale of 1 to 100, how fantastic are you?
372.
That's like a 300%. Wow.
Yes.
Crazy, Matt. Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited to be talking about a couple cool shows that we've had a chance to watch over the last couple days. The one thing that we're doing with this show that's a little bit special is, so with a lot of the films we talk about after we've seen them, and then we talk about upcoming films. With this show specifically, we're going to be watching episodes of things throughout the course of the week,
right,
and talking about those episodes. But then additionally, we're going to be going, looking forward to this show or this episode that's coming out and talking about that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So all things television. Yeah. So I'm really excited about talking about it. And what did you want to start off with first, Matt?
Yeah, I think maybe I want to start off with something new that happened about a week and a half ago. I was thinking, before we even dive into the review section, I just wanted to get your input on the new Iron Fist trailer that dropped.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because we've had some marketing for it, but this one has a little bit more of the story elements to it, and I definitely had some thoughts and kind of what I was thinking about it, but I think I kind of wanted to hear from you first.
Cool. So yeah, Iron Fist. The plot synopsis for this is a young man bestowed with really incredible martial arts skills and a mystical force known as Chi. As he becomes basically known as the Iron Fist. He becomes this really super high-end, amazing kung fu artist, martial artist guy. And so, but he is an American, so he comes from American parentage and through a roundabout set of circumstances. And the thing is we don't know yet. I mean, so this is based upon a Marvel comic that became successful in its own right. And it kind of plays into the whole Marvel universe that they're starting to sort of build within television.
And the Netflix brand.
And the Netflix brand, yeah. And so DC already has this going. They've got Arrow, they've got Supergirl, they've got Flash, they've got... Right. So, and I think they even have their own like assemblage of people.
Right. They have Legends, and they have Black Lightning coming soon too.
Correct. Yeah. So they've kind of already got this going on, and they've been killing it on the TV market, whereas Marvel's been much more doing good things on the film market.
Yeah. So, Netflix has been doing well, but not like standard network TV. Yeah.
Yeah. So with Iron Fist, I don't know a lot about Iron Fist. I know some comic book characters pretty well, but that character in particular, I don't know too much about. I will say this, so far, as of yet, the Marvel shows that have come out have been well shot. Mm-hmm. They've been very well shot, and they do delve into some deeper issues. Like, they don't hold back, like the first episode of Jessica Jones, and there's a crazy situation with the little girl killing parents and things like that. And so they don't hold back, which I can appreciate as well. But this show didn't really, and with all Marvel shows, I'm kind of left wanting more in the sense of what's the deep theme? What's the deep purpose? And where's the emotional connection, the human connection to other people? And it feels, a lot of it feels like they're trying to go for something deep, but they're kind of failing to kind of get into those deeper areas. Right. The weird thing is Flash and a lot of the DC shows, they can be super cheesy. They just they can be. We know they're going to be cheesy, but they still manage to get to this place where they have a lot of depth to them. Yeah. This show doesn't feel like there's necessarily a lot there. To me as well, just based upon the initial trailer. I am excited to see this new cast of people kind of come out and give it a shot, and I'll definitely watch the first couple episodes, but there wasn't anything that I saw innately that I'm like, wow, I've really just been crying out for this kung fu style martial arts show, or anything like that. So I don't know, Matt, what are your thoughts?
I'm actually looking forward to this more so than I feel like Jessica Jones or like a Luke Cage. And I think it is this trailer that came out. You see some more of the story elements, like he's coming back into like the air, to this empire.
Like the Batman thing.
Right, exactly. That's exactly the vibe. I had the whole Batman Begins vibe happening.
Yeah.
Where he's gone in some mystical place, being trained by Ra's al Ghul. I just had that like same vibe, and it kind of has that same feeling. Also some Arrow themes, like when Oliver went to Nanda Parbat and he got his training and his the Ra's al Ghul stuff there, and so it seems like there's a lot of Batman thematic like things happening here.
Yeah.
And I'm not familiar with the Iron Fist comic, so it's entirely possible that it's the same. You know?
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, in the origin story for sure, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, going off to a mystical land and kung fu and learning this art that's kind of like this select group of people, and he becomes this guy Iron Fist who's kind of like this higher level sentient person.
Right.
Whereas Batman, he never quite it never went into like the mysticism. And that was one thing that was cool about Batman, is it was all based upon like practicalities,
right?
Trickery and shadowy type stuff.
And this just looks. I mean, I like the way it looks, and I think with some of the interviews I had, some of the way that it was filmed, and some of the action stuff that they do, it's inspired by a lot of like 70s era like kung fu movies and stuff like that, and it has that vibe a little bit. And the effects I think look really cool. Like his hand like lights up, and I don't know anything about it, but maybe that's like when his hand turns into the quote unquote Iron Fist.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything too much, but that would be part of his Iron Fist powers.
So I mean that looks cool. There's this thing in the trailer where he like hits the ground, and then everybody around him like flies up in the air all like disheveled and busted up. But anyway, I'm excited about it. It's cool to see that. Obviously, you get a glimpse of Rosario Dawson. She's like the connecting thread now to every single one of these like new defenders.
Yeah. She kind of has a moment at least where she interacts with some of the characters.
She's like the Sam Jackson of the TV universe. So anyways, I'm excited for it. I'm pumped. I feel like it's been a long time since I've seen Luke Cage. I don't know why, even though it just came out this last year. But I'm excited to see them tie this all in and lead us into the Defenders.
Cool. I'll give it a watch. I think on a scale of like 1 to 10 excitement level, I'm at like a 6.5.
Oh, cool. I'm probably closer to 7. Cool. Or 8, closer somewhere in there.
Awesome.
Yeah. But so that's kind of our talk on some of the upcoming TVs coming out. But I want to dive into the reviews, because there's a new show that I'm really excited to talk about, just because there's a lot of anticipation going into it. And that show is Legion.
Yes.
Now, we are actually 2 episodes deep into this. And just for the sake of recapping a little bit, it focuses on David Hawley. Right?
David Haller.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
David Haller. And this takes place in the X-Men universe, not necessarily the cinematic universe, but just the X-Men universe as a whole. And he is dealing with what he thinks is schizophrenia. And it turns out he's learning that it's not the mental disorder that he thought it was. He's a mutant, and he has abilities.
Really crazy abilities.
For sure. And just, I know from the past, I don't know what they're going to do with this in the show, but in the comics, his dad is Professor X. But I don't know how that's going to tie in.
Yeah, we'll see if they put Xavier in.
Right. And then anyway, so I actually am caught up on this. I think you are too, right?
Yes.
So we both watched the first 2 episodes.
Correct. Yeah.
Thoughts, kind of initial thoughts on this thing.
Yeah. So my initial thoughts, it was interesting. The first episode I really enjoyed, and I really liked, and I thought it was an effective way to kind of introduce you into this character and kind of let you know what is going to be happening with him. And the one, so I'll talk about the goods first. How about that? Right. So I thought Dan Stevens, amazing acting job. Just killed it as the character. Very believable, very understandable that he's dealing with all these different ideas and thoughts and mental issues. Yeah. Rachel Keller, I also thought she was really great. She was from Fargo, which is basically where, our showrunner kind of gets his connection to her from, and I'm imagining Noah just kind of brought her over. Noah Hawley's the showrunner, so he probably brought her over. But I think she does a great job. I think she's very effective at the role, and I think the additional cast of characters that they're kind of building around there with the government agencies. I mean, the guy, I forget his name, but the guy that doesn't really say anything, that's got the crazy hair, and he's like the Eye, I think is what they call him. Yeah, so he is just like, he's great, and he's really intimidating, and he's really scary. And I don't know who the character is yet as well, but the visual of the fat man that they keep jumping to is really freaky. It's very scary. And the show is a lot, I think, scarier than it's not like really scary, but there's definitely suspenseful moments. And there's moments where they give you this real sense of kind of like, oh my goodness, what's about to happen? Right. That I'm not going to want to go in an MRI scanner anytime soon and stuff. So I like that. And I really liked the emotion that it feels. And I think as well, the cinematography at times was gorgeous. It was really well shot and really visually stunning at times, the way that they composed certain shots and made you feel like you're kind of experiencing a bit of maybe what David's kind of going through,
right.
With the disjointedness of his schizophrenia or whatever he's dealing with.
Right.
And then the music as well. I felt like there was really great moments with the music where it kind of plays into the time periods.
I got some Stranger Things vibes with the music a little bit.
I could see that for sure. I mean, there's kind of this setting where it's kind of like set in like the 1970s kind of thing, and they kind of jump around a bit, but it definitely feels like they've got this future thing and then this like 70s thing kind of going on. So those are the goods for me. The bad really, and this isn't huge, it's still early, so they could just be going in a different direction for these couple episodes, but the really bad thing is, we talked about this over text really quickly, the idea of style over substance.
Right.
And I feel like there's definitely times with the show where they go way too far with the whole style and stylistic, and they don't rely enough on substance. And so you don't get a sense of really getting in deep enough with the characters. At this point in the show, it's the second episode. I would have hoped to kind of know David beyond more than just, well, here's the struggles he has with as this mutant person. I would have hoped to have thought of, we'll find out a little bit more about like, okay, well, he had this difficult relationship with his parents, and they've given little like touches of that with his father and the stars and everything like that. But you really don't get a sense of where he comes from or who he is, and that's the truth of anybody.
Right.
It's very early, so again, this could be coming. There could be holding these cards close to their chest, but there's also definitely moments where it feels like they just kind of show things to show it,
right?
And to be like, oh, look how cool this is. Like in the first episode, David ends up doing this. We're going to spoilers here.
Yeah, spoilers, guys.
Yeah. So he ends up doing this thing where he kind of switches bodies with Rachel Keller's character Sid, and there's this moment where he's kind of like in her body, and they're like going through the hallway to kind of like look around this mental institute that this craziness is happening in, and there's these lights that keep going off on the floor. And it doesn't even make sense. Right. Like, I'm like literally like, why would there be lights on the floor now? They weren't, it's not like he moved them there from somewhere. They're there now. And there's things like that kind of happen throughout. There's moments where it's just like, okay, well, I guess that's going to be there because we just wanted kind of a cool visual. Right. And they definitely do tie in sometimes, but then other times it's just, you're kind of left wondering, did they just do that because it looks cool, because it feels cool, or is there really something to it? So, Matt, what are your thoughts?
A lot of the same thoughts, actually. I do really like it, but my problem with this series, and again, it's too early to make a judgment call, and I'm not entirely sure how they're going to plan on pulling this out, because there's only like 6 to 8 episodes in the season, I think.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. But they're long episodes.
Right, they're an hour. So the thing with this show that's frustrating to me is exactly the style over substance aspect of it. The style it's kind of got that abstract artsy style, which works, especially when they're doing when you're saying it's great cinematography. Absolutely, when it ties into that, it looks fantastic. But also the storytelling is a little bit non-linear. Yeah. And on top of that, it's kind of like from the perspective of David's character, who thinks he's losing his mind. Yeah. And so you have all of these things put together. I could see this as being potentially really confusing to people. Yeah, for sure. I actually wanted to go back and rewatch the first one before I did the second one. I didn't, because for the sake of time, I wanted to watch the second one. Yeah. But it's almost like they give you all the pieces to this puzzle, this 10,000 piece puzzle. You get a little bit of it here, and you're like, okay, they've established this, and then you go way to the other side of the puzzle, and you got this other thing. You're like, how are these even related, or what's happening? Is this the same time? Yeah. Like and then later, if you stick it through it long enough, you get something that says, yeah, oh, okay, this is how this is tied together. That actually took place in the past. This take place, in the future, or in the current times or whatever. I could see that being really confusing. And for me personally, I'm having a hard time connecting with the characters because feel like I'm being thrown around so much. Yeah. There are definitely some scary elements, especially in the second episode. There's this unknown like entity thing. Whenever it shows up, it's like growling. Yeah. And it's like in the dark, and you're like, what is happening right now? Yeah. And it's yes. So there are some tense moments, some cool visuals for sure. That whole kitchen sequence that he kind of blows stuff up in that scene was pretty sweet. But yeah, I mean, I think we just might have to wait, see how this kind of pans out. And go from there, I
totally agree. I think what the problem is, in a way, with that fact, the fact that they're doing sort of style over substance at times, is because of this show being so complex and because there's so many crazy things happening at times that just are otherworldly and not normal, it's hard to know sometimes whether, and they might be doing this on purpose, but it's hard to know whether or not this is something that's real,
right,
or it's something that's fake, or if you're just thinking something, you're kind of left not knowing what direction to go in with things.
right.
And so it gets very cluttered, it gets very confusing. Like there's a scene where in the second episode, David's going through the MRI scanner, and we talked about that, you know, and he kind of has this moment where he starts seeing these visions and this stuff starts happening, and you're left like, okay, there's this, obviously something's happening here and something's going to go bad. But you get no description of it, no explanation of it. You still don't know what's going on. There's a lot of implied things. And then a moment later, he's just laying on the floor and it's bright. And you're like, did he teleport somewhere?
Right.
Did the lights come on? Is he in his head?
Right.
And then you see, okay, the MRI scanner is outside on the ground. And so you're like, oh, okay, he teleported the MRI scanner. But you're like, well, what are the impacts of that? Did that change something? His mind changed? Did he recognize that? Did he do that on purpose?
Right.
And there's a lot of things like that are starting to happen where it's kind of like you don't know what they tie into or why they're there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I like it. I think visually, style-wise, it's great. I think the acting-wise, it's great. I think there's moments as well. We talked about this with the CG. We talked about this before where the CG feels a little not great.
Yeah, that end sequence of the first episode, I was like,
yeah, they were going for like a one-shot thing.
Yeah.
But you could definitely tell a lot of it was bad. The people looked rubbery, and it's like, TV visuals have gotten a lot better in comparison.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're still not anywhere near what they've been for film. And you could definitely tell there's a couple moments. I think the most effective shots are the ones that look very practical and look very real, like the scene where he's in the kitchen and he's kind of exploding everything.
Yeah.
The moments, usually those are actually the best visual scene, is when he has those kind of like telekinetic moments where he just flips out and everything blows up. Like those are really beautiful visual scenes.
And one thing before we move on is I do want to say, yes, Dan Stevens is incredible. First saw him in Downton Abbey. He was in The Guest, kind of a cool little thriller movie. And then in this, he's also the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
He is.
Dan Stevens is all over the place. His range is being shown like I've never seen in such a short time frame, I feel like. And he can do so much. So he's a powerhouse. I think he's gonna have a long, very successful career, regardless of how this turns out.
Yeah, I'd say, and regardless of how well Beauty and the Beast turns out, I think this is a show that's it's probably gonna win some awards. I don't know what exactly awards, but it'll probably win. I'm guessing a number of people will be nominated. I think the one thing I can say is that they're reaching for it. They're really going there. This does not feel like it's pandering to different types of things. They're really trying a new spin on this whole genre of superhero films and X-Men. So I'm excited about it. I will keep watching. I'm excited to kind of see where they go with it. I'm just hoping that maybe they kind of tone down a little bit of the overall style and really focus in on just kind of like, I'm fine with them adding enough confusion to make it like, okay, is this real? Is this not real?
Right.
But just let me connect.
Right.
Allow me to connect with the story. Allow me to connect with the characters a little bit. And we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Yeah. So the next thing I want to talk about is we actually had another show return. This Sunday, and that is the second half of season 7 of The Walking Dead. Something that we probably haven't been looking forward to extremely.
I have not.
Just because of the way the first half of season 7 played out. But let me just say, I am happy with this episode. I'm happy with where it's pointed.
Yes. So this is frustrating to me.
Yeah.
I liked the episode and actually liked it enough that it kind of further upset me about what we'd seen in the events of the prior season.
You got to let it go, man.
I know I got to let it go, but it just, the last half of the season just felt so wasted.
Yeah.
And it felt like this is a plot that they could have just started so soon ago. Like they could have gotten going on this plot and had it been a huge part of the first half of the season to do this new thing, which we've never seen before, which is basically, the whole group of them needs to basically bring together other groups and fight off this other group of people. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, why not have that be the main point of like the first half of the season?
Yeah.
They didn't have to do this thing where they just force all these characters to go through these like needlessly long story arcs of like going out here and struggling with things. And Rick is like, oh my gosh, people are dying. And he's like, I get PTSD.
Yeah.
I understand that. Like I would just say that that's true, but it didn't make for interesting film.
Right.
Showing him going through that. It again, and not trying to berate anybody that's going through that. Definitely not. But like the idea is like give him an episode or two to kind of recover from this. He's seen people die before. He's had people that his wife was killed.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
He's seen a ton of people that he's cared a lot. He had to kill a lot of people that he cared about. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like give him a moment, but then move on and don't just struggle. But I really liked it. And to talk about the actual episode. How about that? So I really liked the way that they started presenting this new idea of trying to bring everybody together. I felt like they didn't get bogged down in details of, these pointless types of things with the different personalities and the personality types. It's like they are who they are, and they're going to join together. The one thing that they've kind of moved towards that they used to do so strongly with the show is that each episode kind of had its own theme and kind of had its own feel. Like this episode, we're going to talk about this, and this episode, we're going to talk about that. This episode didn't feel that way.
Right.
It felt like they're very much like starting a much bigger story that's going to move forward into the coming episodes. And so it does give me excitement and purpose for like the upcoming episodes. There was one scene in particular.
Oh man, I think I know what you're talking about.
Which was like really cool.
Yeah.
And that was the scene where they basically had a horde of zombies.
And just so you guys know, we will be talking about spoilers in Tube Talk. So just be warned. Okay. But
pre-warned. We will put all the different disclaimers all over the place we can. But they had the scene basically where they're driving down the road in I think it's him
and Michonne,
and they're both in a car, and they were working to disarm, which I thought was a really good suspenseful scene. They're trying to get these bombs, and it made sense. They need the bombs, they need weapons. So they're trying to disarm these bombs, and they finally do it, but then this whole horde of zombies is basically on them. Thousands, right? Yeah. And this is the one thing as well that it always ticked me off about the show. They spend all these episodes building up like that they've had to survive and make it through all these hordes of zombies, but then they'll have an episode or a moment where like one zombie shows up, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm going to die, right? But so then this scene came along, and it felt very realistic. I mean, he's literally fighting his way through, him and Michonne are like fighting their way through like zombies everywhere that are like reaching for him and grabbing for him and trying to bite him. And I'm like, that seems realistic. Yeah. Like it seems like if you were surrounded by zombies, that's what you'd have to go through. Yeah. But you would have to fight them off, but it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, one zombie, it's going to eat me and I'm going to die. So they get in the cars and they're driving down the road with the cable with the bombs had been strapped to, and they're basically just chopping all the zombies
in half.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. So I thought that was beautiful and effective, and I thought that's really the word that I will use for this episode. It was effective. Yeah. And they got across what they need to get across, and they moved the story forward. So what are your thoughts, Matt?
Just to go right off of that scene, that's got to be one of my favorite Walking Dead scenes I've seen in years.
Yes, absolutely.
It was incredible. I saw that and I was at work. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, stood up, people were looking at me, and I'm like, you've had to have been there. Okay.
You had to be here.
Yeah.
Watching me watch this.
I know. It was great. Yes. The tension in the episode was great. I do like the little cliffhanger that they had with them being surrounded and like, oh, great, this is not good. And then Rick's got this little grin on his face. You're like, what?
I like the grin. I think that's basically he's realizing we can do this. Like, this is my army. This is my people that I can bring together to fight, for the Savior, against the Saviors.
And I do like, yes, I understand the first half of the season was to completely and utterly destroy Rick and his self-esteem and his confidence at all. Yeah. Just break him. He was broken. Yeah. And then at the end of the first half, we see him kind of recovering a little bit. But I do like that he's awesome. We got our Rick back for the most part, but I do like that they showed that shade of him like second guessing his decision. Yeah. After they cut all the zombies in half.
Which Michonne then has to come and give him.
And kind of like reaffirm him. Right. And I do really like seeing that because I was like, good. He's not just flipping on a switch because he was broken. He has to go through somewhat of a repair process. But for the most part, I think we have our Rick back. And I think the show needed that because that's who I'm always rooting for is, Rick. Yeah. If it's in Daryl, we got Daryl back. We got him being sassy. Yeah.
We needed
to Greg.
That.
I know.
Nobody wants to see mopey Daryl.
Yeah, I know. And so we got him back, doing his Daryl stuff. And I just liked it. I really like where it's headed. They're really setting this thing up to bring it to ahead later on in the season. I don't know if they're going to kill Negan off or not because I feel like there's too much weight behind him as a villain.
I don't want to spoil anything. I mean, he's been in the comic book.
I know, and so. I know what happens in the comic book, but I don't. They've taken enough liberties from the comic book to decide something. So I don't know what they'll do. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I'm excited for where they're going, and hopefully we'll be like, okay, good. I'm on board with Walking Dead again.
Yeah, same here. For once, I'm excited to actually watch the next episode of Walking Dead, which is a good feeling.
It's a great feeling.
Because it has not been like that for the last, couple months.
Several months, for sure. So, moving on to the next, I have two shows that I kind of want to piggyback off of kind of back to back. And that's actually, and we've talked about them, it's Santa Clarita Diet and 24 Legacy. And I want to kind of talk about those back to back because I don't have a lot to add to them, but I did, because last time we talked about Santa Clarita Diet, I had only seen one episode and it really wasn't my jam.
Yeah.
And
not just jammy jam.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up finishing it and I wanted to give it a shot because I had multiple people tell me to keep watching it. I will say that once you get over the element that everybody's a cartoon character, but nobody's a real person, and this is just not basically like a real world. People don't act like real people do. Once you get over that, and I feel like maybe that might be kind of the same way that I initially was in Arrested Development, and you had mentioned that previously as well. It's kind of that everybody's this really just exaggerated character. Once you get over that, it does have its moments. I will say that. It does get better once you can adjust your perspective and mindset, I guess. It does have its moments. It is pretty funny at times. It's not like Arrested Development funny, but it does have its moments, and it's kind of dark humor, I guess. I still don't know if I would be like, yeah, you need to watch this show, but for the most part, I mean, it's all right. It's all right. It did get better. I don't dislike it as much as I did when I just watched the first episode, but it does get better. It's really interesting, the choices that Netflix has as far as what they're choosing, their programming. And I do like that they're being bold about things, but this just as a whole probably isn't my jam. Did you watch this, Joel?
Yeah. So I watched, after we talked about it and I'd seen it, I didn't get a chance to do much, but I did watch the first episode, and then I had a chance to go in and look a bit about the production and everything that's going into it. And I noticed that the showrunner for this is a guy named Victor Fresco. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing was, I actually mentioned this with Arrested Development, the show Better Off Ted. Yeah. There was another show that came out that was very much like this in my mind. And it turns out the showrunner, Victor, is actually a producer for Better Off Ted. Right. So he was also a showrunner for My Name is Earl. And so if I had that in mind, I think, knowing those types of shows, like knowing that that's the kind of show that this is in a way connected to, then I probably would have been better prepared for it, because I looked at that after I'd watched the episode. The episode itself really didn't do a lot for me, and it definitely left me not super excited to kind of like continue watching it.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, it was unnecessarily weird and grotesque at times. Yeah, It felt like I didn't get a sense of anybody having any depth or any purpose being in the show. But again, if I had gone into it knowing that it was like a Better Off Ted or something like that, then maybe I would have approached it differently. I would have looked at it as being a different thing. And I will say the marketing was showing that, I mean, they're not taking this seriously. You know what I mean? I've got a picture of the two main characters walking with a bloody cooler. You know what I mean? Like, so I get that. I think as well, though, the characters didn't do anything for me. Yeah. I wasn't excited about it. I also really didn't like how they played off of the idea of zombies. I mean, zombies are this thing we've seen in so many different iterations. Yeah. In so many different, we're just talking about Walking Dead. Yeah. There's so many different things that are kind of like part and parcel to being a zombie. Yeah. And I really didn't care for how. And it's not like I'm like, oh my gosh, zombies have to be done this way, and they have. But it really didn't make any sense. It's like, okay, well, instead of her being uptight now, she's suddenly super jovial and likes to just run around and do crazy things and stay out at night, and that's what it means to be a zombie. But I also have to eat blood, like eat brains. Like I didn't get that, and I didn't enjoy it very much, and it didn't really do anything for me as far as like the overall characters. There wasn't anything about them that really was funny. Yeah, like, that was the other thing, is I didn't laugh. I think one time I laughed, maybe.
No, the pilot, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, there was maybe like one little moment where I kind of like had a bit of a chuckle. Yeah. And I think that was during the interaction that's between, I forget the guy, but
Joel.
Yeah, Joel, but basically Tim Alafante and then.
Drew Barrymore?
Tim Oliphant. No, and the guy from Firefly. Can't think of his name.
Yeah. Nathan Fillion.
Yes, Nathan Fillion. I thought that the interaction that they had in the bar was pretty funny. How he keeps trying to like force him to get into a fight. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to fight you. I'm an adult. And he's like, what? Because you're going to fight me? And it's
lose,
right. So because you'd lose. So I thought that was cute. But then it left me, and I will say this, the last shot of the first episode left me very underwhelmed about continuing on with it. Right. When basically, I'm going to spoil it. sorry, but when she's eating him,
Yeah.
and she looks up and she's got like blood all over her, and she's like, "So I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And he's like, "What? Come on." I'm like, you walk in and you
Right.
see somebody eating somebody, and you're just like, "Oh, come on."
That was just part of the thing with it. It's just,
Yeah.
just everything's not real. And that was a problem I had with it. And it does add some for some humor elements later on, and you get a little bit more of the mythology about why she is the way she is. You don't know exactly why yet, but we do know a little bit more by the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I don't feel like I would just recommend it. Just on my own personal thing, I couldn't say, hey, go watch this show. I don't think it'd be a great idea.
That's interesting.
Especially.
It's got, because it's got some pretty decent rating on, like IMDb here.
It's some people's jams. I know a lot of people that love it,
Yeah.
and it's just not my thing. But for the sake of move on to the next thing here, I want to get a chance to talk about 24 Legacy a little bit, because I am caught up on that. And again, I've mentioned this previous. I'm a huge 24 fan. Was a huge fan when it was when it was on originally, and then when it came back again and again. And it was just one of those things where I was like, yeah, anytime I couldn't get enough 24, even as it got redundant and kind of, iffy in some places. So this one, we're 3 episodes in, and every episode so far, at the end of it, I'm like, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how the rest of the season turns out. It's a lot of the same stuff. A lot of the same stuff. What we got.
You mean the same stuff from the original series?
Yeah, not like people, but like scenarios that happen.
Right.
There's a mole. There's someone who's falsely accused. There is a situation where a guy has to, just in the last second gets out of it because, of, reasons. And just, it's a lot of variations of the same things.
Yeah.
I do like Corey Hawkins. I think he's a really, really good actor, and I think he's holding his own actually really well. My one hope is that I want them to bring some freshness to it, because I don't feel like any of it's fresh. This is stuff that we got. This is like standard, like template. I feel like they just cut the template off of like seasons 1 through 5, and put it in this, and
and they could be doing that on purpose to try and make sure everybody knows it's like, hey, we know what our roots are.
Right.
But you would also hope that they wouldn't just like redo, but reinvent.
Right.
And kind of improve and tweak. But yeah.
At this point, if you're a fan of 24, I don't know how you would feel about it, but I feel like it's just a little bit of retreading a lot of the same type of things.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping they bring an element to it that's awesome. The one thing that Jack Bauer always did, he was kind of like the guy that did whatever, the shock and awe guy.
Yeah.
And like he would torture some guy or just do like something crazy.
Yeah.
Corey Hawkins isn't that person. We don't have that yet. I mean, there's been some cool fights and some cool things that I've seen him do.
It could be Miranda Otto.
Yeah,
she's willing to do whatever.
She's the one who I will always call the Wraith face stabber.
Yeah.
So from Lord of the Rings reference.
I am no government agent, and stabs him in the.
So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to keep watching it just because I am a loyal fan of the legacy of 24. But we'll see. And I'm hoping that it gets better, and I guess we'll leave it at that part. But
awesome.
Do you have any thoughts to add to that at all?
No, I watched that first episode and it didn't really do much for me. I never watched the original one, and even still it didn't really excite me, didn't do much for me. And so I kind of felt like, maybe I'll give it a couple more episodes, kind of see how it does. And from what it's sounding like, it's not really going anywhere. Maybe I'll give it another try though, just on the basis that, like I said, I don't know the original 24 that well, so maybe it'll be new for me. Right. Maybe the legacy will be a new start for me.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to cover is just kind of going to be a combo of Arrow and The Flash.
Cool.
Because I know you're almost caught up on The Flash.
I'm
Arrow,
so close.
I know, and I'm already caught up on Arrow. So this previous week's Arrow was all social commentary. It was an episode about gun control, a filler episode about gun control,
which is interesting because we talked about this. The Green Arrow originally dwelled into, like in the original comic, they kind of slowly did start to delve into social commentary and basically talking about, prejudice and racism and violence and things like, they moved into that with the series.
Right. And the Constitution and all that stuff.
Yeah. So we'll see if maybe that's because I think Arrow overall hasn't been doing quite as well.
Right.
I think they've been searching for maybe the direction they want to take things in.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the show, but
this season is the best it's been in like 3 seasons.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
A lot of people were getting really really upset for a while because I guess he wasn't killing people, and then like, what? How can you not kill people? So yeah.
So anyways, with Arrow, just kind of some quick thoughts. I'm still not on board. I know I keep saying this. Felicity is bugging me.
Yeah.
Also, I'm finally liking his crew. I haven't liked his crew for a really long time, like since the beginning of the season. He kind of got a new crew.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get on board. I'm really liking Renee. His character is Wild Dog is his character. They had some backstories with him this last episode or so, but he's kind of this kind of cool guy, and he's very charismatic, and just the way that he talks to people. I really like the way he interacts with Captain Lance. He always calls him Haas. It's kind of a funny thing. And then Rory, he's the rag man, the guy with like rags or whatever, the meta. I liked him actually.
Cars?
I really liked him from the beginning.
Yeah.
And he's been MIA through some situations. He's decided to pull himself out. His rags don't have abilities anymore. So I don't know what that's about, but maybe we'll get him back later because I like him. The new Black Canary is sweet. I think she's awesome. Mm-hmm. Actually, she's actually a really good actress too.
Yeah.
Which I feel like maybe that role is missing a little bit previously in previous iterations, but yeah, so I'm digging Arrow. The flashbacks are cool. Last 2 weeks ago was a Bratfa episode, which was pretty sweet seeing that. But yeah, this season has been getting better for me, and overall it's been better than the last 2 seasons. But yeah, so that's it for Arrow. Going into Flash, Flash is all right. Now you're in season 3, right?
Yeah, I just started off season 3. I'm 3 episodes in.
Okay, so you're a little bit behind, and I've already told you this, my frustration with season 3. There's a lot of retread. This Flashpoint thing is really killing the character relationship vibes, and there's a lot of things that need to be redone, and bridges built again, because of that Flashpoint thing. It really screwed a lot of things up, which I was irritated with Barry with forever.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, what are your thoughts so far?
So I've been really frustrated. So I did start to feel a little bit of that sense of like what you're talking about, which is like, I'm going to hold out and not tell people things. I
hate that.
Right. But like I was dealing with it. It was frustrating. But this season has really been frustrating to me because I agree. I don't want to see a retreading of the characters dealing with issues that they've already dealt with for so long, and they've already made it through, and they've kind of had as like this, it's I forget the film. I think it was like the, Karate Kid Part 3 syndrome, which is, the first film, they get along really well and they win. And then the second film, he goes with them to China and they work things out and they get along even better. And he finally puts his trust in them. And then the third film, Dan, their character, he becomes a complete butt. You know what I mean? And he treats him like horrible. And there's no real reason for it beyond just like teenage angst. And then the whole movie is basically them trying to like get Mr. Miyagi and Daniel San to get back together as friends. And it's the same thing in the show with me. Mm-hmm. It really ticks me off that I have to get back to a place with the characters that I already once was at with them. Now, if that was justifiable, if they'd set up a good reason for that, then I would have been like more on board with it. But because of this fact that, well, he did this stupid thing and it was obviously selfish for him to go back and want to live that life and everything. And I felt like that was dumb, but it made sense. Yeah. But then to come back and just to have these issues with relationships because reasons. Yeah. Like it's just reasons because we just needed it. It's just really frustrating. Yeah. And it's like, seriously, I did not need more of this type. You could have literally just given me an expanded universe. Like he's dealing now with not just Earth 1, but he's got Earth 2 and 3 and 4 and who knows, like you can deal with all of the issues with that and then have it be a world that he has to like fight off bad people from and stuff. But I didn't need, let's have more relationship angst between these characters, you know? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and so they had a hiatus this week. They didn't have an episode this week. Their previous episode, they left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger. I won't ruin it for you, but they left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger where they're going to take us back to Earth 2, it seems like. But one general thing that I've really been loving about the last 2 seasons, actually all of it so far, is the actor Tom Cavanaugh who plays Harrison Wells.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He's like one of my favorite things.
He's got
a
huge range too. Like he goes from this like super serious, like evil like kind of like evil guy, in disguise, in the
Yeah.
first one, to being this like just kind of jaded, like, I don't care about anybody except for my daughter type thing in the second one.
Mhm.
And in the third one, I don't know how far you are, but he gets like really goofy. And,
I've seen that.
Okay.
Yeah.
but he doesn't contribute anything, because I feel like they have enough scientists or cooks in the kitchen, if you will. He doesn't contribute anything on a scientific level anymore. But he's very entertaining to have. And there's a lot of little one-lines that he throws in there that I really like. And he's kind of up there right now, just because I was frustrated with Cisco due to the Flashpoint stuff at the beginning of the season, where he's kind of up there now with like Cisco. I'm liking him kind of along the lines of like Cisco interjecting his like kind of quirky like remarks and those kinds of things. But Tom Cavanaugh, man, he's just great. I'm excited to see where this is going. I think it could only get better from here. I think, and I hope this doesn't ruin it too much for you, but I really want there just to be one speedster. Again,
that I totally agree with that. I think they've gotten way too. It's lessened the impact and the importance of
the Flash.
The Flash,
right?
Yeah, it's like anybody can have super speed as long as you just get hit by lightning with this right set of circumstances.
I know, and I hate that. And I want, as I appreciate it, I want them to maybe pull a Legends, which usually what they'll do is they'll show cool characters, and then they'll be like, all right, awesome, now go help the Legends of Tomorrow and be on that show, because we can't have it too crowded in the Flash or Arrow, whatever it is.
Yeah,
and I hope they do that, but I just want there to be one speedster,
Yeah, and again, I'm only in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I really hope they decide on a relationship for Barry. I'm really getting sick of is he going to get together with Iris or not? And he did, but no, he didn't. No, he did. No, he didn't. I'm like, just get. I will say this too. I'm actually more of a fan of him and Caitlin. I kind of think that they would connect a lot better and get along a lot better. I think that's just on the basis that, him and Iris have this history that they talk about all the time, but you never really get to see that or understand that. Whereas him and Caitlin, you've seen work together and have to do things together, and you've seen them both go through loss together and overcome those losses. And it's been a lot of loss on Barry's side, a lot of loss on Caitlin's side. But Iris, for the most part, she lost a mom that she never even knew that she had. She got a brother, and then other than that, she's gotten a job promotion. So it's just like, I just feel like they're soldiers in arms a bit better. But I think obviously Iris is the person for him.
You'll find some stuff out soon, my friend, so stay tuned. But that is all that we have for Tube Talk today, and we'll be trying to get these out weekly as we see TV and talking about it. But yeah, if you had any thoughts about what we had to say about the shows, or just questions, or just want to interject something, shoot us an email. You can reach us here at realreviewmedia@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/realreviewmedia. And that's real spelled REEL. If you haven't noticed that by now, it's a common theme. And then also, if you want to check our website out, and you can get some cool news and updates as that gets updated frequently as well, at realreviewmedia.com, and sign up for the newsletter so you can get some updates on what's happening, what's been going on there. But it's been awesome today. Anything else you want to say, Joel?
Nah, it's been great.
Awesome. It's been real.
It's been real.